The massive Council space station hung like a gleaming jewel against the velvet black of space. Its spiral arms stretched for miles, housing representatives from the 12 most powerful species in the known galaxy. Lights twinkled across its surface, marking the countless windows and docking bays where ships from 100 worlds came and went. Among them, looking small and almost primitive by comparison, was the human diplomatic vessel Horizon. The ship had traveled for 3 months to reach this point, carrying Earth's hopes for a new era of interstellar relations. Admiral James Reed stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back, watching as the station grew larger. At 53, Reed had the weathered face of someone who had seen much in his years of service. His gray-streaked hair was cut short in military fashion, and his blue uniform bore the minimal decorations he allowed himself to wear for this historic occasion. "Quite the sight, isn't it?" said a voice beside him. Reed turned to find Anna Ellis, Earth's chief diplomat, joining him at the viewport. Where Reed was all military precision, Ellis moved with the practiced grace of someone accustomed to navigating delicate social situations. Her dark skin contrasted with the simple white diplomatic uniform that all Earth representatives wore for this mission. "It is," Reed agreed. "Though I can't help but notice our docking assignment." Ellis followed his gaze to where their ship was being directed, far from the central hub in what appeared to be a maintenance sector. "First impressions," she said with a tight smile. "We knew this wouldn't be easy." Reed nodded. Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel only 30 years ago, at least as far as the galaxy knew. In that time, they had established colonies on 3 nearby star systems and made contact with various alien traders. But this marked their first formal introduction to the Galactic Council, the governing body that had maintained order among the stars for over 2,000 years. "The welcome committee approaches," Reed said, spotting a small craft heading toward them. 2 hours later, Reed and Ellis, along with 3 other human representatives, were being led through the station's vast corridors. Their guide, a tall, thin being with purple-tinted skin and forearms, moved quickly, barely looking back to ensure they kept pace. "The Council has graciously allocated 20 minutes for your presentation," the guide said, voice tinged with what sounded like amusement. "Grand Minister Thorne wishes me to remind you that hundreds of species apply for recognition each cycle. Your presence here is already a significant accommodation." Ellis stepped forward, matching the guide's pace. "We appreciate the Council's time. Earth hopes to establish mutually beneficial relations with all galactic species." The guide made a sound that might have been a snort. "Yes, I'm sure Earth has much to offer that 12 ancient civilizations haven't already perfected." Reed felt his jaw tighten but said nothing. They had been briefed extensively on the likelihood of such treatment. Humanity was new to the galactic stage. Condescension was expected. They entered a vast chamber where curved rows of seating rose around a central platform. Hundreds of beings of various shapes, sizes, and colors occupied these seats, with the most ornate positions at the highest point. There, 12 grand chairs held what must be the senior council representatives. "The human delegation may approach," announced a booming voice. As they walked to the central platform, Reed became acutely aware of the sounds rippling through the chamber. Laughter, whispers, the unmistakable sounds of amusement. Grand Minister Thorne was immediately recognizable, at the center of the 12, tall, with skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light and eyes that held the wisdom and arrogance of centuries. The being wore elaborate robes covered in symbols that probably denoted countless honors. "Earth," Thorne said, voice echoing through the chamber. "The 3rd planet of an unremarkable yellow star at the edge of the Orion Arm. Home to humans, a bipedal, short-lived species that has recently stumbled upon the principles of faster-than-light travel." More laughter followed these words. Ellis stepped forward. "Grand Minister, esteemed council members, we come in peace and friendship, seeking to join the galactic community as contributors and allies." "Contributors?" came a voice from one of the 12, a being with features resembling an Earth reptile. "Your species has barely mastered basic interstellar flight. Your longest colony is less than 20 light-years from your homeworld." "What could you possibly contribute?" Reed watched as Ellis maintained her diplomatic smile despite the open mockery. Earth has unique perspectives and technologies that— Technologies? Interrupted another council member. This one appeared almost gaseous, contained within what looked like a floating environmental suit. Our observers report your vessels still use reaction thrusters for sublight maneuvering. Most advanced species abandoned such inefficient methods millennia ago, Reed finally spoke up. Different paths of development often lead to unique solutions. Earth's isolation has fostered innovation in unexpected areas. This statement was met with what could only be described as the alien equivalent of eye-rolling. Grand. Minister Thorne raised a hand for silence. Let us proceed with formalities. The human delegation may present their case for recognition. Ellis activated a small holographic projector, displaying images of Earth and its colonies. As she began her carefully prepared presentation, Reed noticed many council members turning to their neighbors, making gestures that seemed dismissive or amused. Halfway through Ellis's explanation of Earth's proposal for trade routes, Thorne interrupted. Let us be direct, the Grand Minister said. Your species is young, your territory minimal, your technology primitive. The Council is willing to grant Earth provisional status as a protectorate. Protectorate? Reed questioned, feeling a chill. Yes. You would benefit from our guidance and protection. In exchange, the Council would establish oversight of your colonies and resource development. A modest tribute of 30% of your world's mineral and biological resources would be required, of course. Ellis maintained her composure, though Reed could see the tension in her shoulders. With respect, Grand Minister, Earth seeks recognition. As an independent member, not a protectorate. Laughter erupted again, louder this time. Ambitious for such a young species, commented one of the 12. This one with multiple eye stalks that swiveled independently. Thorne made a gesture that silenced the chamber. There is another matter. Our intelligence suggests your military leaders speak of some ancient threat lurking in dark space. You come before us with warnings as well as requests, do you not? Reed stepped forward. Our deep space observers have detected unusual energy signatures beyond the galactic rim, patterns that suggest— Superstition and paranoia, interrupted Thorne. Common among species new to the stars. The galaxy has been mapped and monitored by the Council for thousands of years. There are no hidden threats lurking in the void. More laughter followed, and Reed felt his patience wearing thin. We simply suggest that combined investigation would benefit— Enough, Thorne said, raising a hand. The Council has heard sufficient. You will be provided with the terms of protectorate status. Your delegation has 3 standard days to accept or reject our generous offer. As they were escorted from the chamber, Ellis maintained perfect diplomatic posture until they reached the privacy of their assigned quarters. Well, she said finally, that went about as expected. Reed moved to the communications terminal. I need to contact Earth immediately. They're probably monitoring everything we say, Ellis warned. I'm counting on it, Reed replied, entering his security codes. It's time Earth showed its hand. Ellis watched him, understanding dawning on her face. You think it's time for Operation Sunburst? Reed's expression was grim. They're not just mocking us, Anna. Did you notice how quickly they dismissed our warnings? How eager they are to establish oversight of our worlds. You think they know something? I think they see us as the next easy target. Reed finished entering his access codes. President Wells needs to know what we're dealing with. The Council isn't looking for allies, they're looking for subjects. As the secure channel established, Reed looked out at the glittering expanse of the station, where countless alien representatives continued their business, likely already forgetting the amusing humans and their quaint presentation. They're laughing at us now, he said quietly. Let's see how long that lasts. The Situation Room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains was silent as the encrypted transmission from Admiral Reed played. The room held 12 people, Earth Security Council, who watched with grim expressions as Reed described the meeting with the Galactic Council. When the transmission ended, President Wells stood up. Unlike most politicians of past eras, Wells was a former military commander who had led Earth's first interstellar mission. Gray hair framed a face marked by both wisdom and determination. "So," Wells said, "they laughed at us just as we expected." General Marcus Stone, head of Earth's Defense Forces, nodded. "And they want 30% of our resources as tribute. Classic extortion disguised as protection." Dr. Keller, the Council's science advisor, pulled up a holographic display. "More concerning is their dismissal of our warnings about the dark space anomalies. Either they're hiding something, or they genuinely don't know." "My bet is they know," said Stone. "The question is, do we reveal our true capabilities now?" President Wells walked slowly around the table. "For over a century, we've hidden our advances. Since the first alien probe was discovered in Antarctica in 2089, Earth has presented itself as less developed than we truly are." The display changed to show the solar system. Scattered throughout were thousands of small dots, each representing a component of humanity's secret. "The Supernova fleet," Wells said quietly. 10,000 warships hidden throughout our system. Another 5,000 in our colony systems. All invisible to even the most advanced scanning technology we've encountered. Stone stepped up to the display. "Our intelligence agents embedded in alien trading posts have confirmed that the Council's behavior toward us matches their historical pattern. They identify resource-rich worlds with developing species, offer protection, then gradually increase demands until the species is effectively enslaved. Or worse," added Dr. Keller. "We've tracked several cases where planets accepted protectorate status, only to suffer mysterious natural disasters a few decades later, when they began showing signs of advancement that might challenge Council authority." President Wells returned to the head of the table. "Admiral Reed has requested activation of Operation Sunburst. Opinions?" The room erupted in discussion. Some argued for patience, for gathering more intelligence. Others insisted immediate action was necessary. "The Council is already preparing," said Stone, cutting through the debate. "Our deep space sensors detected a fleet assembling near the Arcturus relay point. Over 50 warships, officially listed, as a diplomatic escort but armed for combat." Silence fell across the room. "How long until they reach Sol?" asked Wells. 10 days at standard FTL speeds," replied Stone. Wells looked at each person in turn. "A century ago, our ancestors made a choice. When they realized Earth was not alone in the galaxy, they decided to prepare in secret. They built ships and hid them. They developed technologies and concealed them. Generation after generation maintained the deception, knowing someday we would need every advantage we could get." The president's eyes hardened. "I think that day has come." Back on the Council station, Ellis walked carefully through the busy market district. She had been granted limited access to public areas, a supposed courtesy that felt more like an opportunity for various alien species to stare at the primitive human. She had nearly reached her destination when someone bumped into her. "Apologies," said a voice, soft and melodic. Ellis looked up to see a humanoid figure with pale blue skin and large, gentle eyes. The alien wore the simple gray uniform of station support staff. "No harm done," Ellis replied. The alien hesitated. "You are from Earth." "I am. My name is Anna Ellis." "I am called Marsh," the alien said, glancing around nervously. May I speak with you somewhere private?" Ellis studied the alien carefully. Her security training assessed the risk. Marsh was smaller than her, apparently, unarmed, and seemed genuinely anxious rather than threatening. "There's a viewing area this way," Ellis suggested, "usually quiet this time of station day." The viewing area was indeed empty, a small platform overlooking the vast central hub of the station. Stars were visible through the massive transparent dome above. "You should be careful," Marsh said once they were alone. "The Council is not what it appears." Ellis kept her expression neutral. "What do you mean?" "I work in the historical archives. I've seen the patterns." Marsh's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. 6 times in the last 500 years, species have approached the Council much as yours has. All were offered protectorate status. And, Ellis prompted when Marsh paused. All accepted. All provided resources and territory. All were promised eventual full membership. Marsh's large eyes blinked rapidly. Within 50 years, each homeworld suffered catastrophic natural disasters, asteroid impacts, solar flares, tectonic destabilization. Ellis felt a chill despite the station's controlled temperature. Are you suggesting the Council deliberately? I can prove nothing, Marsh interrupted. I can only show you the pattern. The Council allows developing worlds to advance to a certain point, extracts what resources it can, then eliminates potential future rivals. Why tell me this? Ellis asked. You're risking a lot. Marsh looked out at the stars. Not all species in the galaxy agree with the Council's methods. Some of us believe in true cooperation. My people, the Valens, were nearly exterminated 1,000 years ago for opposing Council policies. Now we serve, watching and waiting. Ellis's communication device vibrated subtly against her wrist. A message from Reed. Return to ship immediately. Developments from Earth. I have to go, she said. Marsh pressed a small data chip into Ellis's hand. Historical records. Things not found in the public archives. May they help your people avoid the fate of others. General Stone stood in the command center of Ceres Base, the largest hidden facility in the solar system. Carved into the heart of the dwarf planet, the base served as the central hub for the Supernova fleet's operations. Around him, officers and technicians worked at their stations, monitoring the status of thousands of vessels throughout the system. On the main display, a red dot moved steadily toward Sol, the Council's approaching fleet. Status report, Stone ordered. Commander Hayes stepped forward. All fleet elements report ready, sir. Stealth systems functioning at optimal levels. The enemy remains unaware of our presence. Stone nodded. And the new intelligence from the Council station? Admiral Reed's transmission included data from an insider source, Hayes said. It confirms our suspicions. The Council has a pattern of eliminating potential rivals after extracting resources from their worlds, so they plan to bleed us dry, then arrange an accident for Earth, Stone said grimly. It appears so, sir. Stone studied the tactical display. Scattered throughout the solar system were thousands of green dots, each representing a vessel of the Supernova fleet. Some hidden in asteroid fields, others concealed within the atmospheres of gas giants. Many more drifting in the vast emptiness of the Oort cloud, their advanced stealth systems making them invisible to standard scans. For a century, humanity had built this fleet in secret. While showing the galaxy a handful of newly developed colony ships, they had constructed an armada that could rival any in known space. We've received the authorization code from President. Well, said Hayes, Operation Sunburst is a go. Stone took a deep breath. 100 years of preparation, of secrecy, of presenting a false face to the stars, all coming down to this moment. Send the activation signal to all fleet elements, he ordered. Begin power-up sequences but maintain stealth protocols. When the Council fleet enters the outer system boundary, we'll spring the trap. Throughout the solar system, hidden ships received their orders. Reactor cores that had lain dormant for years began to hum with energy. Weapon systems initiated. Self-checks. Crews that had trained endlessly for this day moved to battle stations. The galaxy had laughed at humanity, thinking them weak and primitive. Soon, that laughter would stop. In the darkness of space, humanity's secret weapon waited. The Supernova fleet, ready to explode upon an unsuspecting galaxy. The Council escort fleet approached the edge of Sol system, with confidence bordering on arrogance. 50 warships, sleek, powerful vessels painted in the 12 colors of the dominant species, moved in perfect formation. At their center, the command ship Eternal Wisdom carried Ambassador Dex, Grand Minister Thorne's personal representative. On the bridge of the Eternal Wisdom, Ambassador Dex reviewed the mission briefing one final time. A tall being with silver-scaled skin and six-fingered hands, Dex had overseen a dozen protectorate acquisitions in his long career. Status report, he ordered. His second-in-command, a reptilian officer named Krell, approached with a datapad. We will reach Earth's outer defense perimeter in 30 minutes. Their primitive monitoring satellites have detected our approach. Any response? Nothing yet, Krell replied. Their communications have gone silent across all channels. Even the diplomatic vessel at the council station has stopped transmitting. Dex made a dismissive gesture. Typical primitive reaction, they're frightened into silence. Prepare the standard intimidation display when we reach their moon. The sight of our fleet arrayed above their world usually brings these young species to their senses. Krell was about to respond when a sensor officer called out, "Ambassador!" Unusual energy readings throughout the system. "Explain," Dex demanded. The officer worked frantically at the controls. Multiple sources appearing. Everywhere. Asteroids, moons, open space, all showing power signatures that weren't there moments ago. A sensor malfunction? Suggested Krell. Unlikely, sir. The pattern is too... The officer paused, antennas twitching nervously. Too deliberate. Ambassador Dex felt the first prickle of unease. Show me. The main view screen changed to display a tactical map of the Sol system. Suddenly points of light began to appear. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Within seconds, the map was filled with new signatures, surrounding the council fleet on all sides. Impossible, whispered Krell. Admiral Reed stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, the flagship of humanity's first fleet. After departing the council station in apparent diplomatic retreat, the Horizon had rendezvoused with the hidden command vessel near Neptune. All fleet elements report ready, Admiral, announced his tactical officer. Reed nodded. Begin Phase 1. Throughout the solar system, stealth fields deactivated in careful sequence. Like stars blinking into existence, the ships of the Supernova fleet revealed themselves. Frigates hidden within the rings of Saturn emerged, their sleek hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Cruisers concealed in Jupiter's stormy atmosphere rose above the clouds. Battleships that had drifted silently in the Kuiper Belt powered up massive engines. Carriers hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids broke free from their rocky covers. And, in the vastness of the Oort cloud, the dreadnoughts, massive city-sized warships that humanity had built in absolute secrecy, activated their main power cores, sending pulses of energy that could be detected across light years. The Council fleet has stopped advancing, reported the tactical officer. They're holding position at the Neptune orbital line. Ellis, now serving as Reed's diplomatic advisor, watched the display with quiet satisfaction. I imagine they're quite confused right now. Time to enlighten them, Reed said. Open a system-wide broadcast channel. On the council station, Grand Minister Thorne was in the middle of a routine meeting when an aide rushed in, breaking all protocols of proper conduct. Minister, emergency transmission from Ambassador Dex. Before Thorne could reprimand the aide, for the interruption the chamber's main screen activated. Ambassador Dex's face appeared, his silver scales pale with what appeared to be shock. Grand Minister, Dex said, his voice unsteady. The humans, they've deceived us. Their system is... Compose yourself, Ambassador, Thorne snapped. What is happening? They have ships, Minister, thousands of them, appearing everywhere surrounding our fleet. Technology we've never seen before. Thorne rose from his seat, all four arms tensing with anger. Impossible. Our intelligence indicated. The transmission from Dex suddenly cut off, replaced by a new face, the human Admiral Reed. Greetings, Grand Minister, Reed said, his voice calm and measured. I believe we need to reopen negotiations. Throughout the council station, in chambers and corridors and gathering places, screens activated simultaneously. On each, the same image appeared. Admiral Reed standing on the bridge of a warship far more advanced than anything the humans had shown before. To the Galactic Council and all its member species, Reed began. For a century, humanity has hidden its true capabilities from the galaxy. We know of the Council's pattern, offering protection to developing worlds, only to exploit and eventually destroy them. We know of the 6 species in recent history who accepted your generosity only to suffer convenient natural disasters once they were no longer useful. In the central chamber, representatives from dozens of worlds watched in stunned silence, some with horror, others with poorly concealed delight at the council's discomfort. Reed continued, "You laughed at us. You plotted against us. You underestimated us. That was your mistake." The view on the screens pulled back to show the bridge of the Prometheus in its entirety, a command center filled with technology that even the most advanced council species recognized as equal or superior to their own. The human fleet now surrounds your diplomatic escort. Your ships are outgunned and outmatched, but unlike the council, we do not destroy potential rivals. We are transmitting coordinates for safe passage out of our system. "Shut this off," Thorne demanded, but the technicians shook their heads helplessly. "The signal is overriding all our systems," one explained. Reed's voice continued, reaching every corner of the station. "To those species who have suffered under council domination, we offer friendship and alliance based on mutual respect, not subservience. To the council leadership, we offer a chance to reform your ways and join us as equals. The choice is yours." The transmission ended but was immediately replaced by another image, a tactical hologram showing the full might of the Supernova fleet. Ships of all classes, from nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts, each bearing the emblem of a stylized, exploding star. In the council chamber, the silence was broken by a voice. Marsh, the seemingly insignificant archive worker, stood tall among the representatives. "The humans speak the truth," Marsh declared. "The Valen's archives contain records of the council's elimination of potential rivals, records we've kept hidden for our own survival." Other voices joined, representatives of smaller, oppressed species who had long suspected the council's darker actions, but never dared speak out. Grand Minister Thorne, seeing his authority crumbling, turned to his most loyal allies. "Prepare your war fleets," he ordered quietly. "This human deception cannot go unpunished." Back in Sol's system, Ambassador Dex faced a difficult decision. His fleet was surrounded, with human warships holding position at strategic points to prevent escape, except through their designated corridor. "Your orders, Ambassador?" asked Krell. Dex stared at the tactical display, counting the human ships, vastly outnumbering his own fleet, many showing power signatures suggesting weapons beyond council technology. "We withdraw," he said finally, "through their designated corridor." And then, Dex's silver scales darkened with barely controlled rage. "And then we prepare for war. These humans have not just challenged the council, they've humiliated us before the galaxy." As the council fleet began its retreat, Admiral Reed watched from the Prometheus bridge. "They're taking the exit route," reported his tactical officer. Ellis stepped closer to Reed. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Reed nodded grimly. "We've won the first battle without firing a shot, but the war—" He looked at the retreating council ships. "The war has just begun." Across Earth and its colonies, citizens watched as humanity revealed its true strength to the stars. President Wells addressed the people from the underground command center. "For 100 years we prepared in secret while presenting a humble face to the galaxy. Today, we have shown that humanity will not be consumed like those who came before us. We never wanted war, but we have always been prepared for it." 3 weeks after humanity's dramatic revelation, the galaxy was in turmoil. The Council's unified front had cracked, with member species taking different positions on how to respond to Earth. Some called for immediate war to crush the human deception. Others urged caution, impressed by the technological prowess humanity had demonstrated. On the Council station, Grand Minister Thorne faced the first serious challenge to his leadership in centuries. The central chamber, once a place of ordered procedure, now echoed with angry voices and competing demands. "Order!" Thorne shouted, his patience wearing thin. "The Council will have order." Gradually, the noise subsided. Thorne looked around at the representatives, noting which species seemed supportive and which hostile. "The humans have revealed themselves as deceivers," Thorne said. "For a century, They hid their true capabilities building a war fleet while pretending to be a developing civilization. Such treachery cannot go unpunished. A representative of the Valens, Marsh's people, stood up. And what of the Council's own deceptions? The natural disasters that conveniently eliminated rising species after they were stripped of resources. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Such accusations had never been spoken openly before. Baseless conspiracy theories, Thorne dismissed with a wave of his hand. The Council protects the galaxy. Sometimes protection requires difficult decisions. The humans claim they only want peace, said another representative from a species known as the Kalari. Perhaps we should open genuine negotiations. Thorne's inner eyelids flickered with annoyance. While we debate, the humans prepare. Already, 7 species have announced treaties with Earth, breaking their council obligations. The Grav Dominion has requested permission to take military action to protect council interests. The Grav want war, objected the Valens representative. They always have. The Grav understand strength, Thorne countered, and how to use it when necessary. After hours of debate, a vote was taken. The council remained divided, but a narrow majority supported military action. Not a formal declaration of war, but security operations to contain human aggression. As the session ended, Thorne met privately with the Grav commander, General Vex. The Grav were massive beings with thick armored skin and a warrior culture that dominated 100 worlds. You have authorization to conduct limited operations, Thorne told Vex. Begin with their outer colonies. Test their defenses, their response times. Find weaknesses. Vex's mouth, a horizontal slit beneath 4 yellow eyes, twisted into what passed for a smile among his kind. It will be done, Minister. The humans have ships, yes. But do they have the will to use them? We shall see. At Proxima Centuri, humanity's oldest colony world, morning broke across the capital city of New Hope. 30 years of development had transformed what began as a simple outpost into a thriving community of 500,000 people. Governor Taylor stood at the window of his office, looking out at the city's clean streets and elegant buildings. A century of preparation had not just created the Supernova fleet. It had also ensured that when humanity finally spread to the stars, they did so efficiently and effectively. His assistant entered the office. Governor, we've received a priority. Message from Earth Command. Deep space sensors have detected a fleet approaching the system, not on any registered flight path. Taylor's expression hardened. How long? 6 hours until they reach our outer defenses. Taylor nodded. Implement Security Protocol Alpha. Begin civilian evacuation to the shelter complexes, and notify Commander Park that her fleet should prepare to receive visitors. Hidden in orbit, around Proxima Centauri's ice giant, the warships of the Supernova fleet's 3rd battle group had been on high alert since the revelation. 25 vessels from frigates to the battleship Defiance maintained their positions, sensors scanning the darkness between stars. Commander Park, a veteran of countless training exercises but never actual combat, stood calmly on the bridge of the Defiance. The unidentified fleet has dropped out of FTL, reported her sensor officer. Configuration matches Grav Dominion vessels. 47 ships, heavily armed. Park studied the tactical display. Their approach vector? Directly toward the colony, Commander. No attempt at stealth or evasion. They expect an easy victory, Park said, more to herself than to her crew. They think we're untested. She tapped her command console. All ships, this is Commander Park. The Grav have come to test us. Let's show them what humanity can do. General Vex observed the human colony from the bridge of his flagship, the Subjugator. A primitive settlement, on a barely terraformed world, hardly worth the effort but a good place to demonstrate the consequences of defying the Council. Scan for defenses, he ordered. His tactical officer worked the controls, then looked up in confusion. General, we're detecting no orbital platforms, no defensive installations. Vex made a sound of satisfaction. As expected, the humans concentrated their forces at their home system, Their colonies are vulnerable. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare orbital bombardment. Target their population centers first, then infrastructure. General, interrupted the sensor officer. I'm detecting energy signatures appearing throughout the system. Vex frowned. Explain. Similar to what was reported in the Sol system. Ships. Decloaking. Before Vex could respond, the tactical display lit up with new contacts. Human warships appearing where none had been detected moments before. Behind moons, within planetary rings, and in seemingly empty space. Battle formations, Vex ordered, but it was already too late for proper deployment. His fleet had entered, the system in a casual attack formation, not prepared for serious resistance. The human vessels moved with precision that spoke of years of training. They split into 3 groups. One engaged the Grav vanguard, another circled to cut off retreat, while the third positioned itself between the colony and the attackers. Open fire, Vex commanded. All ships, engage the humans. The blackness of space lit up with energy weapons as the first shots of the war were exchanged. Grav beam weapons powerful enough to crack planetary crusts lashed out at the human ships. But where they should have struck hull plate, they instead hit shimmering energy shields that absorbed or deflected the attacks. Their shield technology, muttered Vex's science officer. It's unlike anything in our database. The humans returned fire. Rather than the expected plasma weapons common to developing species, they launched precision strikes that targeted engines, weapon systems, and command nodes. The Grav heavy cruiser dominance spun out of control, its main power disabled by a weapon that hadn't damaged the hull but had somehow disrupted all energy systems within. What kind of weapon did that? Demanded Vex. Unknown, General. Some type of electromagnetic pulse, but focused and penetrating. 3 more Grav ships were disabled in quick succession, not destroyed. The humans seemed to be deliberately avoiding kills, but rendered combat ineffective. Vex slammed his fist on the command console. All ships regroup, form defensive sphere. But the careful coordination that might have saved. His fleet was impossible now. The human attacks had targeted communication systems, leaving each Grav ship to fight alone. Within 30 minutes, half of Vex's fleet was disabled or retreating. On the bridge of the Defiance, Commander Park watched the battle with calm professionalism. Maintain containment pattern. Don't let their remaining capital ships escape. Commander, said her communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the Grav flagship. Park nodded. On screen, General Vex's face appeared, his yellow eyes blazing with anger and something else. Respect, perhaps, or fear. You fight well, humans, he growled. Better than expected. This was a test, Park replied. Not a question, but a statement. You wanted to see our capabilities. And we have, Vex acknowledged. Allow my remaining ships to retreat, and this battle ends today. Park considered briefly. Withdraw beyond the system boundary. Any ship that returns will be considered hostile and destroyed. Not disabled, destroyed. Vex nodded once, then the transmission ended. As the remaining Grav ships limped away, Park sent a message to Earth Command. First engagement complete. Minimal casualties. Enemy repelled. The Supernova fleet has drawn first blood. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Wells received the news with mixed emotions, pride in the victory, sadness that diplomacy had failed. And so it begins, Wells said quietly. The war we spent a century preparing for. 6 months into the war, the galaxy had transformed. The once unified Galactic Council had splintered into 3 distinct factions. The Hardliners, led by Grand Minister Thorn, and the Grav Dominion, who continued to fight against humanity. The Liberty Compact, an alliance of former Council species now aligned with Earth, and the Neutrals, who tried to avoid taking sides in the growing conflict. Admiral Reed stood on the observation deck of the Prometheus, watching as ships from a dozen allied species formed up alongside the vessels of the Supernova fleet. The sight would have been unimaginable just months ago, humans fighting alongside aliens, united against the tyranny of the Council. "Quite the armada," said Ellis, joining him at the viewport. No longer just a diplomat, she now served as the chief ambassador to the Liberty Compact. 30 years ago, we wondered if we were alone in the universe, Reed replied. Now we're leading a coalition of species against the most powerful government in known space. Ellis smiled. And 6 months ago, they were laughing at us. The Prometheus was currently stationed at Arcturus Gate, a strategic nexus point where multiple hyperspace lanes converged. Whoever controlled this region could rapidly deploy forces to a dozen different star systems, which was why both sides were determined to claim it. Reed's communications officer approached. "Admiral, President Wells is ready for the briefing." In the ship's secure conference room, a holographic projection of President Wells appeared, looking tired but resolute. "Admiral, Ambassador," Wells greeted them. "I've just finished reviewing the latest intelligence. The Hardliners are planning something big. We've detected unusual movements near the Sirius corridor," Reed confirmed. "The Grav are assembling their main battle fleet, and they've been joined by several other Council loyalist forces. They're also deploying new weapons," added General Stone, joining the conversation from Ceres base. "Our intelligence suggests they've activated technologies previously banned by the Council's own laws." Wells nodded grimly. "Specifically star killers, weapons capable of inducing premature nova events in main sequence stars." A heavy silence fell over the conference room. "They wouldn't," Ellis said finally. "Even the Hardliners must realize that using such weapons would unite every species against them. Desperation makes for dangerous enemies," Stone replied. "The Grav have lost every major engagement with our forces. Thorne's leadership is being questioned openly now. They need a decisive victory." "Or a decisive atrocity," Reed said quietly. "Something so terrible that other species would submit out of fear." Wells looked at each of them in turn. "We believe their target is Arcturus Gate. Your current position. If they can destroy our forces there and collapse the gate itself, they could isolate multiple Liberty Compact worlds from support." "When?" asked Reed. "Intelligence suggests 3 days." Reed straightened. "Then we'll be ready for them." On the Council station, now half empty as numerous species had withdrawn their representatives, Grand Minister Thorne met with General Vex in a heavily guarded chamber. "The weapons are ready?" Thorne asked. Vex nodded. 3 star killers as requested. Once deployed, they will destabilize the Arcturus star within hours. Nothing within the system will survive. "And the human fleet?" "Our intelligence confirms they are gathering at Arcturus Gate, along with their allies." Vex spoke the last word with disgust. Thorne's 4 arms moved in a complex gesture of satisfaction. "You understand what is at stake. The Council has maintained order for 2,000 years. We cannot allow a species that lied about its capabilities for a century to destroy everything we've built. The humans must be taught their place," Vex agreed. "This will break their coalition. When other species see that we can destroy entire stars, they will return to the Council's protection." "Proceed with the operation," Thorne ordered. "Show no mercy." At Arcturus Gate, Reed had positioned his forces in a defensive formation around the massive artificial structure that regulated hyperspace travel between star systems. Ships from Earth, the Valens, and half a dozen other former Council species stood ready. "All ships report combat ready, Admiral," said his tactical officer. Reed nodded. "And our special preparations?" "In place, sir. Operation Starshield is ready to implement on your command." For weeks, human scientists had worked alongside their alien allies, developing countermeasures to the rumored star killers. It was a technology humanity had considered and abandoned a century ago. Too destructive, too uncertain, too likely to create galactic instability. "We've received the latest intelligence update," reported the communications officer. "The Hardliner fleet has departed Sirius. They'll arrive within hours." Reed turned to Ellis. "Contact our allies. Make sure everyone understands the stakes. If the Hardliners deploy star killers here and succeed, no world will be safe." The battle began conventionally. Enough. The Hardliner fleet, over 200 vessels, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Arcturus system. The Liberty Compact forces, slightly fewer in number but with superior positioning, held their defensive formation. For an hour, the two fleets exchanged fire at long range, probing defenses, testing weaknesses. Several ships on both sides were damaged, but the lines held. Then, as human intelligence had predicted, the Hardliners changed tactics. 3 massive vessels, unlike any standard warship, moved forward from the center of their formation. "Star killers detected," announced Reed's tactical officer, voice tight with tension. Reed stood from his command chair. "All ships, execute Operation Starshield. Authorization Reed Alpha 7. Throughout the Liberty Compact fleet, specially, modified vessels moved into new positions, forming a complex 3-dimensional pattern around the star. Each activated unusual devices attached to their hulls, technology that humanity had developed decades ago but never deployed. On the main, Hardliner vessel, General Vex watched with confusion as the human fleet rearranged itself. "What are they doing?" he demanded. His science officer studied the readings. "Unknown, General. They appear to be generating some kind of field around the star." "Irrelevant. Deploy the star killers." The 3 specialized vessels moved closer to Arcturus's sun, each extending massive energy collectors designed to tap into and destabilize the star's fusion processes. "Star killers at deployment range," reported Vex's weapons officer. "Activating now." Energy beams lanced from the star killers toward the sun's churning surface. For a moment, it seemed the attack would succeed. The star's output fluctuated, radiation levels spiked, and the surface began to roil unnaturally. But then something unexpected happened. The devices deployed by the Liberty Compact fleet activated simultaneously, creating a shimmering energy web around the star. The destabilizing beams from the star killers hit this web and dissipated. "What's happening?" Vex demanded. "Why isn't it working?" "The humans," his science officer replied in disbelief. "They've created some kind of stabilization field. They're counteracting the star killer technology." On the Prometheus, Reed watched as Operation Starshield performed exactly as designed. "Status: Starshield holding at 87% efficiency," reported his science officer. "The star's condition is stabilizing." Reed nodded. "All ships advance. Target the star killers first, then their command vessels." The Liberty Compact fleet surged forward, no longer purely defensive. Ships from Earth, the Valens, and other allied species moved with perfect coordination, focusing overwhelming firepower on the Hardliners' specialized weapons platforms. The first star killer exploded in a blaze of light as multiple torpedo salvos breached its shields. The second lost power after a precise strike from a Valen cruiser. The third managed to withdraw but was cut off from the main Hardliner fleet. General Vex watched in disbelief as his supposedly unstoppable weapons were neutralized within minutes. "All ships hold position. Prepare for..." He never finished the order. A precision strike from the Prometheus disabled the subjugator's main bridge, cutting off command. Without leadership, facing a technology they didn't understand that had negated their ultimate weapon, the Hardliner fleet began to fragment. Some ships continued fighting. Others attempted to retreat. Many simply surrendered when faced with the coordinated attacks of the Liberty Compact forces. 2 days later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on a neutral station to discuss terms. Grand Minister Thorne, stripped of his position by a vote of no confidence, was absent. In his place stood a coalition of former council species, now ready to rebuild galactic governance on more equal terms. President Wells addressed the gathering. "The attempt to use star killers marks a line that should never have been crossed. But from this darkness comes an opportunity to create a new galactic community based on mutual respect rather than domination." Admiral Reed and Ambassador Ellis stood among representatives from 24 species, many of which had been oppressed under the old council. "The galaxy laughed at humanity when we first appeared," Ellis said to the assembly. "They thought us weak, primitive, naive. But today we offer not conquest, but partnership. Not revenge, but reconciliation. Reed looked out at the representatives, beings of every shape, size, and evolutionary background. A century ago, when we discovered we were not alone, humanity prepared for the worst. We built fleets and weapons, hid our capabilities, prepared for war. But what we truly sought was simply the right to exist freely among the stars. As the HFY new alliance took shape, with treaties being signed and cooperative projects established, Reed turned to Ellis. "Do you think it will last?" he asked quietly. Ellis smiled. "The war isn't over. There are still hardliners out there. But today we've proven something important." "What's that?" "That the galaxy is stronger together than divided. That cooperation can overcome tyranny." She looked out at the stars. 100 years of preparation gave us the strength to fight, but it's what we choose to do with that strength that truly matters. The former council, which had laughed at humanity and planned their subjugation, was gone. In its place stood something new, a liberty compact of diverse species, united by shared values rather than fear. And at its heart stood humanity. No longer hiding, no longer pretending to be less than they were. The Supernova fleet, built in secret for war, now served as the foundation for peace among the stars.